We moved into this beautiful neighborhood with a lot of wonderful people who have become some of our best friends. It's a super caring place to live. Just wanted to let you know that I am a 3-year cancer survivor, ovarian cancer. Thank you. And throughout my cancer journey, complete strangers showed up at our house and dropped off food. That's how beautiful our neighborhood is. So, I mean, you can't get any better than that. Also, my husband and I have, with our own bare hands, renovated our house from, I'm not gonna say top to bottom, we still have a couple of things left to do. It never stops, it never ends. But I mean, we put our heart and our souls into our home. It is our home. This is where we live, it's where we work, it's where our family and our friends are. And you know what? I am not leaving this city. I am not leaving this city. My home. I knew this would resonate with you because you're here today because you care and you feel exactly the same way that I do. This is our home. All right. So, I think that I also want to, before I pass the microphone on, I want to tell you, I actually want to thank everyone that's here today. I want to thank you because it takes a lot of courage to come to a group like this, a lot of courage. It takes a lot to get up and come down to City Hall. It takes courage to leave your home and be with a whole group of people. It takes something, and that something is a caring for the world around us, a caring for the neighborhood, a caring for your home, a caring for the people around you. This is a whole group of people who are interested in making change. And you know what? That's a beautiful thing because together we can make real change happen today. Thank you. And so over the last little while, we've been working, all of us, little ways. We've been trying to work with a whole bunch of different folks in the city, City Hall, etc., and trying to improve things. And we've got Kathleen here, who agreed to help us understand a little bit more about what the city has done so far, and when we're going to talk about what we'd like the city to do more than what they've already done. So without any ado, Kathleen.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming to the rally today. I know there's many folks that couldn't attend for various other reasons. We know a lot went into coordinating this, so we appreciate everyone's support for this extremely important matter as it has negatively impacted all of us in all of our communities in Brampton. The issue continues to lower everyone's standard of living and continues to place many vulnerable people in grave danger, and we want it to stop now. We want all levels of our government to stop and listen and come up with a better way. And that is why we were all here today, to support the RRL and to pause any additional rental units, ARUs. So I just want to take a step back and make sure that everyone understands what RRL is. The RRL refers to a residential rental licensing. This program was proposed in Q2 of 2023 by our elected ward councillors that directed city staff to implement this licensing program to focus initially on wards 1, 3, 4, 5, and 7 in order to deal with the growing number of rental problems. These wards were selected as a pilot or a phase 1 of the program as they were the wards that had the most violations that had been documented. No one is being targeted. This was documented as problematic areas. Let me read from the Brampton website. The objective of this program is to protect the health and safety. Protect the health and safety of and human rights of persons. And protect human rights of persons to protect the residential amenity, character and stability of residential areas, to proactively mitigate potential risks that may exist within a particular business sector and provide enforcement mechanism to respond to complaints to that sector. The program goals includes helping to maintain the character of local neighborhoods uphold property standard bylaws, and keep individual and families safe with enforcement of the Ontario Fire Code. As I can see from your applause, this is an objective that we can all get behind and support, as we want safe communities, bottom line. So a big thank you goes out to our ward councillors for listening and doing what is right to protect the residents of our community. So thank you to our councillors and for putting this forward. And hopefully some of them will be here today to see the support that we're providing for them. I personally have been in Brampton for over 25 years. Over the past couple years, a number of community groups have come together to voice our concerns to stop these illegal rooming houses and problematic rentals from taking over our communities. We've attended town halls, spoke at delegations, at city council, and signed petitions. So thanks to these efforts, we have seen an increased public awareness and support for improving our communities. I know Michelle had mentioned change. I'm going to add to that a little bit. Change needs to be good. So if change is happening, that's great, as long as it's positive change, and that's what we're asking for. So we need to continue that and ensure we're heard. We have a pandemic of illegal rooming houses and absentee landlords in the city of Brampton. Councillor Keenan shared some pretty grim images at a recent council meeting. I don't know if any of you saw any of this. Images of shared rooms for rent with dirty mattresses on floors. Another image of over 20 suitcases on a lawn at a recent fire on Bartley Bull. One that was particularly shocking to me as a female and disgusting at an extreme point was the ad for a room for rent with a note of females being offered free rent for a room for friends with benefits.
Oh my God.
I was absolutely disgusted by that. That needs to stop.
Yeah.
The RRL is a step in a right direction. However, we are in a situation where the RRL is not enough. We have a significant number of rooming houses in our family neighborhoods. There is no end in sight as investors continue to purchase homes in our neighborhoods and immediately add a second or a third unit until they rip out all the green space and gardens and completely pave over the front lawns, completely changing our beloved neighborhoods, all in the name of providing housing in our government's self-made crisis of housing. It's not a housing crisis, it's an affordability housing crisis, and that is why we are getting such overcrowding in rental properties. We need the Ford government and all levels of government to allow Brampton to pause the additional rental units in areas with high concentration of rooming houses, and also limit the number of ARUs that are permitted on any given street.
Yeah, good one.
We all understand the requirement for additional units, and this helps with providing additional housing. However, this cannot erode our family neighborhoods. Additional housing cannot be at the cost of our existing communities. Unfortunately, a number of very opportunistic slumlords have purchased a number of homes, move the page, in our beautiful neighborhoods, as all they see is dollar signs.
Yeah.
The rooming houses and absentee landlords have proven themselves to be horrible neighbors, and we do not want the job of property manager any longer. The RRL will help uphold property standards and hold these absentee landlords accountable, and that is the goal. The blatant exploitation of our neighborhoods and our communities needs to stop now. We support the RRL, and we need to pause any additional ARUs now. So that is my 2 cents. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming. And continue to keep your foot on the gas pedal, because the challenge and the recognition and everything that we need to keep doing, we need to keep moving forward. So thank you, everybody. So if you think showing up that it's not going to make a difference, please continue to show up.
For sure.
I'm going to pass this over to Michelle as she wants to continue with her experience with having rooming houses all around her in her neighborhood.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So you're stuck with me for a little while longer. Sorry about that. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to add to this, and she's a hard act to follow, super passionate. I wanted to let you guys know, just in case that you weren't at one of the council meetings, that I'm also a landlord. So I'm not just a member of this community, but I'm a landlord. And I've been a landlord for 25 years, so longer than some of you have been alive. And I take that job very seriously. And I wanted to mention that because for me, when I look out at some of the things that are happening in my neighborhood, it really hurts me to see this and to understand how some people could manage a business this way. There are such things as ethics that are being trampled on right now, and this is inexcusable. So, I want to let you know that the first thing a landlord should do, in my personal opinion, is take a course on how to be a landlord. The next thing, thank you. The next thing they should do is read and memorize the RTA, otherwise known as the Residential Tenancy Act, which outlines the responsibility of the landlord towards the tenants. Now, if I had wanted to today, I could have called every single set of tenants that I have had in the last 25 years, and they would have lined up behind me to comment on what a great landlord I am and how I took care of them, how I cared about them. I could do the same with every single neighbor that we have had next to every single rental property we have had, and they would all say that we are present, we are available, we are responsible, we are ethical, we are not slumlords. The good neighbors and the good tenants and the good landlords in Brampton are not why we are here today. It's because of the bad landlords, the slumlords. So, in the most recent committee meeting that Brampton had, I believe the mayor mentioned the Brampton Housing Providers Association. I think you all may have seen them protesting at some of the streets. I believe he referred to them as the Slum Lords Association, and I am inclined to agree with him. These are not the good landlords. These are the bad landlords. They have said, I don't want anyone interfering with my rooming house. I don't want anyone interfering in my rental property. And you know what I say to that? First of all, my friends, the bank owns your property, you don't own it. It's a misnomer to understand that you have full control over anything. The bank owns your property. Secondly, you know what? We've had a Residential Tenancy Act in Canada, in Brampton, all throughout this country since the dawn of time to protect tenants and to protect landlords. You never had full control over your own rental property. It never happened. All of us have to abide by the rules and regulations that protect people in this city. All of us do. Next thing I'm going to say, I did have a conversation with one of the landlords in this association, and he told me, oh my God, I have to pay $300 a year to register. This is terrible. Exactly, right? Exactly. Oh my God, $300 I have to pay. This is a terrible thing. And what I said to him, I said, you know what? If $300 a year breaks the bank for you, you need to go back to business school. You need a new business plan. $300 a year going to break the bank? You are doing something wrong, my friend. So this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, and I reject that comment. I can tell you that my husband and I have visited many rental properties in Brampton and throughout the GTA. And I can also say that those properties are sometimes in the most deplorable conditions you have ever seen. We're talking about black mold covering the basement side to side. We're talking about people living on top of each other. We're talking about awful conditions, water not working, electricity wires hanging from the ceiling. This is something that no one should have to live with, no one. And you know what? We need to make sure that tenants are safe, and we need to make sure that living conditions in our city are good. And it's up to all of us, including the City of Brampton, the Province of Ontario, and the federal government to ensure that that happens.
Oh, wow.
Maybe one last comment on the Brampton Housing Providers Association, otherwise known as the Slumlord Association. They have often said, you know what, we have to fight against the RRL, which is ridiculous. because the landlord and tenant board is not working. So for those of you who don't know what that is the provincial government association that we can go to have our disputes settled. And they are currently 8 months backed up. I just want to let you know, if they put 1/100th of the effort into going and protesting the provincial government, which is responsible for that body, that body would actually be fixed right now in terms of an issue, but they haven't. Instead, they hang around Brampton at the corner of Steeles and Main, and they protest regularly for what? For nothing. It's a provincial problem, it is not a municipal problem, and anyone who spent 2 seconds on Google would understand that. Just saying. Okay, now I want to get into a little bit of what my experience has been like as a member of the community and as someone who lives in a street that has up to 30% rental properties. So I can tell you that everyone here today has probably experienced one rooming house. But you know what? We live with so many rooming houses on our street that sometimes I think that they outnumber us. So I want to talk first about my experience before we started working with Councillor Keenan and City Council. I want to talk about my favorite topic. Anyone who has talked to me about this before knows that I hate noisy cars. This is the reason why. Right? Exactly. So, I want to tell you about the guy living in front of me with the modified muffler. Exactly. So my neighbor across the street, I loved her so much. She unfortunately passed away at the age of 94. We went to her funeral. She was like a second mom to us. We loved her. We loved her. And when she sold the house, or her family sold the house, in came in a rooming house. And the first thing that showed up at the door was a Dodge, forget what you call them. Charger, thank you. Who here has a Dodge Charger in their neighborhood? Raise your hand. Exactly. He had a modified muffler that was so loud that our front windows shook. Can you imagine? I work at home 3 days a week, and people on my conference calls could hear the guy starting up his car. I know, right? We would be downstairs in our 1960s house, which we commonly refer to as a nuclear bunker because it has so much cement in it, and we could still hear the guy start up his car. I went out, I talked to him, he didn't care. I went to the police, they didn't do much. I made 30 police reports, 30 reports. 30 reports with videos of him starting up the car, and nothing happened. Nothing. It was terrible. Anyways, we eventually had to go and find someone who would change our windows to triple pane windows. I have a video, seriously, $15,000 worth of windows, just so that I could get some peace of mind. $15,000, we don't have a lot of money. This was really upsetting. I'm still mad about it, as you can tell right now. And honestly, I think I'll probably still be mad about it 10 years from now. There has to be a way that we can solve for problems like that. So just want to let you know, we eventually found a way to find them. So they got fined. And then to fix the problem, oh yeah, it was terrific. The first fine did nothing. They took a Tim Hortons cup and they taped it to their muffler so that it would make less noise. I'm serious. The second fine, they took a bunch of clothing and taped it to their muffler so that it would make less noise. Just saying. And then the third fine and the fourth fine finally did something, and they sold the car, and I am so grateful. My life is so much more peaceful now. Yep. Thank you. Let's talk about speeding. So speeding in our street is ridiculous. So no one in this audience likes the speed bumps. I don't like them either, right? We hate the speed bumps, but honestly, sometimes they're the only thing that makes the street racing stop. In our street, we don't have speed bumps yet, and even last night at midnight when I was sitting here stressing about standing up in front of everybody, some guy tore down our street. I could hear the screech, and this morning when we drove over where he screeched down the street, there were tire marks on the street. And this is in a completely residential area. This is 40 kilometers an hour max, and there are people screeching down the street like that. What the heck is going on? Why is this acceptable? How is this happening in our neighborhood? All right. So, want to talk to you about driveway widening. Who loves that?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Exactly. So before the driveway got widened ahead of us, like in front of us, we had them parking on the front lawn, we had them parking in the back, we had them parking on the side lawn, we had them parking on the street, we had them parking on the street in the wintertime with the car on for 5, 6, 7 hours. We had a guy that fell asleep in his car with his car on in front of our house and his foot on the accelerator. Can you imagine? He was revving the car for hours and hours and hours at a time. And this has become the norm in our neighborhoods, where we have driveways that are 50, 60% of the width of the house in front of us. You know what? Councillor Keenan is trying to solve that problem. He has tried. He is going to the city and asking the city to pause driveway widening in mature neighborhoods. Exactly. So grateful. So grateful. We need the widening to stop. We just need it to stop. So important for us. Let's talk about the garbage.
Oh, God.
Right? Exactly. There you go. That's the garbage. Let's talk about the garbage. The garbage is terrible. So I want to tell you about the neighbors behind me. They took empty bottles and empty Tim Hortons cups and decorated the front tree with all the cups. Like it was a Christmas tree, but a garbage Christmas tree. This is what we faced for months and months and months. So you remember like the old Westerns when there was tumbleweed rolling across the street? Okay, well we have garbage rolling across our street. There's garbage everywhere. There's beer bottles on the street in front of our house. There's just garbage all over the place. It is terrible. My husband and I now spend an inordinate amount of time cleaning up over people's garbage that we don't even own. It has to stop. Let's talk about the random strangers that drove down our street and dumped garbage in our street. So, random guy drives down and dumps an entire bag of garbage in the middle of our street. Guys driving over and dumping garbage on our property has to stop. Let's talk about the construction. So, you guys have seen the video that's made the rounds on social media. Who here has seen that video of construction? Yep. Every single person that's seen it has understood how upsetting that must have been to the poor person who owns that house. It is just terrible. I am not going to talk about that because I feel like that's her story to tell, but I am going to talk about our story. So across the street from us, we had construction. Okay, we have construction at our friendly rooming house across the street, and we had a excavator show up. This is the modus operandi. They showed up on a Sunday and they started digging the front lawn, like deep in the front lawn. So I'm no construction expert. My husband knows a lot about construction, and the two of us sat around and we looked at it and we said, what the heck? Where are the locates? Now we had some stuff done at our house and we know that they were digging right across our gas lines. So it put the fear of God in both of us. So the first thing we did was pack up everything, get in the car and drive away. Because I don't want to be around when it blows up. And then I called Ontario 1 and said, hey, there are no locates that are being done, and this guy is digging in an excavator and they're going down really, really far, and I feel like the whole street's gonna blow up. I don't know if you've experienced that, but it is not fun. Now we have somebody who here has experienced crazy construction happening in their neighborhood. Exactly. So anyways, I call Ontario 1, they show up the next day, which is nice. At least they showed up. And they stopped all the construction for an entire week. And the first thing that happened was the owner of the house next door came straight to our door, knocked on the door, and started yelling at us. And then he said to me, I think you want to fight. So my friends, I'm standing up here, and this is me fighting. Exactly. I hope they got a really good fine. Okay, I just wanted to spend 2 more seconds just talking to you about some of the experiences in our community, and then I'm going to pass the mic to some special guests. Kathleen mentioned the fire on Bartley Bull. I just want to let you know that the Brampton Housing Providers Association, otherwise known as the Slumlord Association, did mention that this was fake news. I'm not sure how Trump moved to Canada, but this is absolutely unacceptable. So those of us who live in the neighborhood actually went to that fire. I was there. I saw that fire. I want to describe this for you. This is a house that everybody in the neighborhood knows. It has 12 cars parked in the driveway. 12 cars. That's just in the driveway. Sometimes they park on the street. But can you imagine that? 12 cars in the driveway. There are so many people in that home. It's the exact same home that we have, the same model. It's, I don't even know how they do that. But more importantly, there was a fire, and that should be the biggest concern that all of us have, because that puts people's lives at risk. And really, one of the primary reasons that we are here today is because people's lives are at risk. You would not believe the number of people that came out of that house. There is no way that that is safe. No way. I am personally hugely concerned about that happening in my neighborhood, not just the construction that might have blown me up, but the fact that there are people in our neighborhood, the most vulnerable people in our neighborhood. This isn't just, everybody. This is the most vulnerable people that are being put in situations that are unsafe, and something has to be done about that. Last comment. The reason that I was galvanized around this was the most recent thing that happened. This is the reason I'm standing up here, the reason I agreed to stand up in a really new way, something I'm not used to doing, public speaking. This is not me. The reason I'm standing here is because of the recent article that all of you have seen, which Kathleen also mentioned. This was the apartment that was for rent, the room that was for rent, friends with benefits. The council talked about it. Rowena Santos talked about it quite extensively. This is terrible. This is terrible. How can we allow that to happen as people that live in this community? It is absolutely unacceptable. And if we don't speak up about it, who is going to speak up about it? Exactly. I want to thank personally, because as you all know, and as Kathleen mentioned, we've been working with the City Council to try and improve things in our neighborhood. And I want to tell you, as much as you've been frustrated over the last little while, and it is frustrating to live the way that we have in some ways, and some days, I do want to tell you that Council has listened to us. I know personally they've listened to me. Thank you. They have come to my neighborhood, they have come to my home, they have seen what's behind and beside me, and they have helped me and helped my neighbors. They have worked with us. We need them to keep working for us, and we need them to continue to help improve things. We need the council as partners and collaborators, so I just want to thank them for being there for me and for everyone else here.
So on that note, we have their support here today. So we have Councillor Keenan and Councillor Santos. If you'd like to come up and say a few words, I appreciate it.
Well, what a great turnout. I'm going to go up here because I am short. There's no secret there. I can't hide that fact. But thank you guys so much for coming out. And as much as we stand here and we talk about council, we're doing what we said we would do when we knocked on your doors. We're here to be your voice. This isn't about us. This is about everybody. This is about the city of Brampton. This is about keeping our community safe. And we're doing things that I was told for many years wasn't capable of being done. We just need to think outside the box. We need to be together as a community and continue to push on. I always say that this is a marathon. We're not in a sprint. This isn't something that's going to change overnight. But coming together, staying together as a community and fighting for the right cause is what we need to continue to do. So give yourselves a round of applause. There's a lot of stuff that we've been working on over the last 2.5 years. And you're starting to see the change, and you'll continue to see more. But we can't just stop. We can't implement one thing and think it's enough. We must keep going. So when we talk about the driveways, I was at the town hall, I heard about it, realized what the issues were, took it back to staff, and it's taken a while, but we're getting there. to change the bylaws in mature neighborhoods for those driveway sizes, because what works in 9 and 10 doesn't work in 3 and 4 or 1 and 5. So we are looking to make those changes. It's been an absolute pleasure working with Councillor Santos. She calls me at 6:30 almost every morning to talk about the RRL. And you know, we are here to listen. We are here to try to do what we said we can do. So your emails, your phone calls, your support, it goes a long way. A lot of the things we're implementing came from your suggestions. So keep them coming, don't stop. As long as I'm here, I'm gonna keep the fight going. So as long as I have my council seat, you can trust that I will listen, I will do what I can to continue to make our neighborhood safe and better. I want a Brampton that my kids want to be proud of. I want a Brampton that they want to work in, they want to live in, and they want to grow their families in. So I want to say thank you. I'm going to pass the mic off. Just want to say thank you one more time. Thanks, everybody.
All right, Councillor Keenan. Councillor Keenan has been working so hard, and it's been an absolute honor to have him on this new term of council. Somebody who is actually working together with myself, Mayor Brown, other councillors to find solutions to some of these issues. It was a lot more difficult in the last term before Councillor Keenan came on board. So a big round of applause for Councillor Keenan. The level of exploitation of slum landlords to get to a point where somebody can just explicitly post ads, essentially putting vulnerable international student girls at risk through prostitution. Some of these girls who don't even understand what consent is, what friends with benefit means, they just explicitly put it out there publicly, is the worst of the worst that this could possibly get. And the reason why it's gotten that bad is because slum landlords until now have not been held to account. And if there is garbage overflowing in front of their house and grass and weeds are all the way up, and they are allowing 20 to 30 people sleeping on mattresses in their homes, and cars that are parked overflowing onto driveways and on public streets, if they are getting away with that, what else are they getting away with? And so the RRL, despite some folks who are protesting it, and despite some folks spreading misinformation about it, and despite some of the things being said out of context, the RRL is about holding landlords to account just like any other business has a license. And for those landlords or people who are protesting our efforts to hold landlords accountable, just like any other business. It's actually the only business, pretty much, where, you know, they're collecting a lot of profit and a lot of money and have no license or level of accountability, similar to like a restaurant or a nail salon. It baffles my mind how a landlord can get away without a license and have no working smoke alarms and no carbon monoxide detectors, and have fire traps in their homes that we don't find out about until there are suitcases on a lawn and international students who are waiting on the lawn after a fire. It baffles my mind as to how these protesters can actually say why they are against this. It baffles my mind. Now, we are using every tool in our toolbox to deal with all your problems. We aren't stopping. Municipally, we're using what we can in our jurisdiction, whether that's dealing with the driveways, whether that's dealing with overcapacity and overcrowding. We just passed a motion last Wednesday about that to deal with setting actual capacity limits and dealing with rooming houses and illegal lodging homes. We started that process. Councillor Keenan has been working hard to deal with unlicensed contractors who don't understand the rules of what they are doing. We are using every tool in our toolbox to deal with these issues because we are not against housing. We are in support of safe housing and people who do not exploit the housing crisis. That's what we support. We should not be condoning the building of unsafe conditions for people in our community and destroying the quality of our neighborhoods. And that's what we are doing. Now, This is as a result of the housing crisis, right? Like, we know we have a housing crisis in Brampton and across the entire province. And so this is unfortunately a consequence of that, what we are dealing with as a municipality. And hands up, and I tell you, a lot of municipalities around the country are dealing with hands up if we think that other orders of government should also be collaborating with us to solve this problem. Hands up if you think that we should only be paying for this consequence through our property taxes. No, we should not be paying for this only through our property taxes. So one of our next steps, and we're going to need your help, is to advocate to the other orders of government, provincial and federal, to help us deal with these consequences, because property taxpayers should not be the only ones footing the bill. Yes, and Jenny has more to add on that.
So just on that note, I have been working very closely with our MPP, MPP Zakaria, who is very supportive of everything that we're doing. He has family obligations, or he would be here today. He might still make it at the end, so fingers crossed. And he has been working with me and will continue to get some of the things that we need the province to allow us to do to make sure that we can move forward in some of these steps. So that is huge. Having him on board is a massive step for us. So I'm happy for that. I just want to let everybody know that he is on our team and he is working with us. And then the funding is another part. So we need it. We know this all came from, you know, a bad immigration plan. But it was the Brampton City Council that wrote the letters to the minister to say enough's enough. And that's when they implemented the change on the international visas and everything that's coming from the federal. So it's you guys making noise that are changing things in this country. It's not just changing it here in Brampton, we're changing it across the country. And it just goes to show how amazing when we come together, how much we can actually accomplish. And that's the best thing, coming together to accomplish those things. So I'll pass it back to Councilor Santos, because that passion's awesome.
I'm just going to conclude. We are going to conclude, and we're here on behalf of Mayor Brown as well as all of council. Listen, here's the truth. You have a council team who's working like a team. In the past, we have not been able to focus as much on issues like this because we've had divisive councils in the past, right? Shame. People on council who have caused division, who have caused smears, who have caused ridiculous lies and rumors to keep us focused on fighting each other. Fighting each other will get you nowhere. And you now have a council and a team who's actually focusing on the issues that matter to you. There are going to be people out there spreading stuff on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, saying horrible things about Councillor Keenan and I showing up to your rally, probably saying that we're the ones who organized it. Did we organize it?
No.
Did we come here as guests?
Yes.
Are we working together to solve your problems?
Yes.
What are we going to say to the trolls out there who are going to smear and take things out of context and actually try to create division on our council? Right. So that's what we need you all to remember, because we will not be able to continue doing this work if there is fighting and division on our council. We need you to stay together with us as much as we can stay together with each other. Is that a deal?
Yes.
Thank you so much. We are not going to stop. We're going to keep going, and we're going to need your help to put pressure to the other orders of government as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keenan. Thank you, Councillor Santos. We appreciate that. And just to echo that, they are guests here today. The main organizers of this were our community groups, as I had mentioned earlier, and this is a result of just everyone coming together from various communities within the different wards. So this isn't just Ward 3 or Ward 1. It's various wards here coming together as citizens of Brampton with the single intent of progressive, positive change is what we're looking for. So on that happy note, I do unfortunately want to give you guys an update. There was a situation that we're all familiar with, probably by way of viral videos that have gone out, which was 13 Caledon Crescent. It was all over Global News. Sean O'Shea covered it for us, of a deplorable property. And just to show how there's no accountability for slumlord and what happens. We also have Donna Mazzafaro here. She lives, unfortunately, at 15 Caledon Crescent, right next door to the mess that is happening. Donna, do you want to come up and talk a little bit about the concerns and most recent update? Sean O'Shea is looking to hopefully cover this as a follow-up this week on Global News, so we look forward to him coming and giving an update to this situation. So Donna, thank you for coming, and just give us your experience so far.
Hi guys, I'm not going to go on this step. I have a bum knee and I'll fall and it'll look awful. So sorry, I'm going to be very short down here. So I guess I'm here for the health and safety perspective. Truly, to me, there's nothing more important than the health and safety of this community. I'm here today with my 3-year-old neighbor. I look at that little girl, I think of my 2 little girls, and it's frightful what's been happening. So you saw my video. It was not intended for public. Just to be clear, that was a back and forth going on with me and the city of Brampton, trying to say, hey, I need some help. I think this situation is out of control. When Michelle was talking earlier, all of her points, point by point, I was like, oh yeah, me too. And that wasn't even for the next door neighbor, that was for the house across the street. And then my neighbor moved in. And again, I'm all for people making money. If you want to be a landlord, you go and you do it. I don't have a problem with that. Everybody's earning a living as best as they can. I do think that maybe some of these landlords really are ignorant. They don't understand that there is a process, number one. Number two, I'm not sure the city of Brampton's